What is going on, everyone? It is Mike back again for the first video in 10 days. I mean, I let my subscribers down rotten over the last 10 days, but
It's a good job you're not Patreon, isn't it? It's a good job you're not Patreon.
honestly,
They'll be queuing up for refunds round the block.
I couldn't do it to them. I couldn't do it to them, but there's been genuine reasons. There's been genuine reasons, and I go to Florida on Thursday. And with the family, getting prepped, all the forms you've got to do to go to America these days, the COVID. Mate, it's been horrendous. But there's been no match reaction or no video since the Arsenal game. Probably at the time it was better. We've got our man Millsy from Across the Park podcast back on the channel. Millsy, how does it feel to finally be able to sleep?
Mate, it is. It's a privilege to be able to sleep. I never ever felt that way about sleep. I just thought it was a bit of a necessity, and now I appreciate the life out of it. Going to bed and putting your phone on and looking at anything but Burnley, Watford, Leeds, football. Yeah, look, I just said to you off air, we haven't done a show for a few weeks. Going back to when Burnley beat Watford on the Saturday, and our game in hand was Chelsea, and we were 5 points adrift. That was the moment. I've been on this show before. When we got done at Burnley, I was scared. But in the back of your mind, you're always thinking that there's time, there's games, and there's two worst teams. That was always. I think I said this, and you may have agreed. If we got leaped, that was the worry. And not only were we leaped, there was distance. And going into that Chelsea game, and the strangest thing was we booked our holiday in February, and around that time it was dicey. And I said to my wife, I said, "But I'm not missing any home games. An away game, fine. I'll catch it where we go, but I'm not missing any home games." So we booked the Sunday because we were playing Chelsea on the Saturday, and then the Chelsea game got moved to the Sunday. So watching that game in the airport hotel in the bar, it was just. I was so proud of the Evertonians who were at that game. It was unbelievable what those groups and what those fans that have jumped on with those groups have done. It started with Chelsea. It very, very easily could have gone the other way, couldn't it? That Burnley Watford result could have put everybody into a serious sort of, without joking, a serious bout of a mild form of depression, if you will, and just give up. I didn't sleep after that Burnley Watford game. I was shattered going on holiday, and then I watched Leicester the following week. I was still on holiday and I watched that, and all of a sudden, in the space of a week, football and Everton Football Club have just got you back into being so far in love with that club. It was unbelievable. We had a blip at Watford. We had a very scary blip at home to Brentford. And then, Mike, you were there for the Palace game. That was something else, wasn't it? At half time, I thought again. I thought the highs and lows. I literally cannot deal with it any longer.
Yeah, we'll get on to that game in a minute, but yeah, I mean, it was surreal, that game. It was that game was surreal. What I want to do is I want to do a little bit of an overview. I want to talk about a couple of the players, and I want to talk about mainly the board, because I don't know whether you agree with me, but I'm pretty sure we probably do. We had the same issue last summer as we did this summer, in my opinion, is lack of communication from the top, lack of understanding what's going, etc. Let us understand what. So we'll get into that. So let's talk about the season first of all. So we started really well. I think we were third or second after 4 games, or we were certainly in the top 5. We played really well against Brighton away, for example, and we got a good result at home. And, we seemed to be scoring goals. And Rafa Benitez seemed to have took a little bit of an understanding of the football club, which some people didn't expect. But after 5 games, I'm not going to say people were happy, because still don't think they were. But there was an optimism that maybe he was the right man. And then it all come crashing down to earth. So How was the start of the season for you, and where did it go wrong?
Look, I never ever wanted Rafael Benitez to be the Everton manager, but similar to yourself, once he was in, what was the point in causing a fuss? What was the point in not clapping him onto the pitch at the Southampton game? What was the point in not getting behind it? Because you could see, like it or not, he came into the club in a really bad position. It's not like we're not looking back on his tenure and say he's just pissed £40 million up the wall. But that's the one benefit of looking back at his tenure, that he hasn't wasted more money. He wasn't given any money. So we knew going into the season, you'd lost Carlo Ancelotti, you'd lost James Rodriguez, who fans were clamouring to see. I remember going to the Wolves game at the end of last season before with 6,500 fans and kids with James Rodriguez stops, and that sort of optimism had gone a little bit. And then you had the Benitez dynamic where some fans were divided. Fans like me sort of tried to jump on board as best we possibly could with it. And yeah, you're absolutely right. The start of the season, you beat Southampton at home, you draw with Leeds, you beat Brighton, I think it was. You go through in the cup, albeit it was a championship side. But you go through in the cup, you beat Burnley at home, and you draw with Manchester United. And then you're going into October, and you're sort of thinking, "Good God, have we actually got someone here who knows what they're doing?" I liken it to. I don't know, Mike, if you've ever had a previous partner before your gorgeous bride now, a previous partner, and you know it's not going to work, but you sort of settle down with it and you say, I'll give it a go. She's cooking a nice meal first, and you're thinking, good God, I've landed on my feet here. I didn't expect this. All of a sudden, it goes to pot, and you go, I knew this was going to happen. I should never have got myself in this situation. And you've got to have a nasty breakup. You go on the ale for a while, you try and get over it. I liken it to that. It was something that was never, ever going to work, but we give it a go. We tried our hardest as fans to get behind it. I think going up to October, November, I think the early signs were there. That Watford game was unbelievable at home. Now I appreciate we got beat by Aston Villa prior to that, and we got beat by West Ham prior to that, and they were worrying signs in those games. But again, you don't expect to win every game. So you go into the Watford game as a set of fans, and you're still thinking, okay, it's still not been a bad start to the season. You beat these, and we're still going. That Watford game was just, if there was ever a warning sign, that was it for me.
Yep. I remember, so I was there. I sat down, I watched us lose to West Ham, and I was gutted, but I appreciated that West Ham had a decent side. Mikel Antonio played really well that day. Declan Rice dominated midfield, and I appreciated that they, at the time, just had two better players in those positions. I think Lewin was out then, or I think he was out by that point. And I just thought, we aren't where we want to be. We're not necessarily this top six side that we kind of had that aspiration for. I think if we'd have got a point in that game, it would have been our best Premier League start ever. And we sort of blew it. And from that moment, we then play Watford the week after these two home games, and we, to be 2-1 up with 10 minutes to go or 15 minutes to go, and to end up losing the way we did was a shocker. For King to come back and be able to embarrass us like that, it was disappointing. Then, as you say, the Villa game, and then there's sort of some games that sort of highlighted where we were, and it was the fact that we couldn't get a result at home and we couldn't get a result away from home. Like, we literally couldn't win games of football. It's almost like the players had completely lost it. Then we go away to Norwich and lose, and that was a game where I have never been in an environment that toxic. And it wasn't toxic as in like us as fans were arguing with each other, but we all had one purpose in that away ground after losing 2-0 away at Norwich, and that was to get Rafa Benitez out of our football club. And there was fans on the pitch, there was fans going absolutely mad about it. Obviously, rightly so. I took Finlay to that game, and he loved it. But we then bring in Frank, And
You've skipped the chaos of Vitor Pereira interviewing himself on Sky Sports News.
I didn't
Fan
want to mention it.
protests.
I didn't want to mention it.
There was fans and the fan groups, and God love them. We spoke to them over on across the park. We spoke to the Esk, and at the time it was happening, and he was very detailed in why these fan groups were doing that. But the visual of these groups was so powerful. Like, whether you agree or don't agree, that visual of those fans at Goodison Park on that midweek in winter, going round the grounds with the banners, that I've never seen nothing like that. And I've seen some bad times. I've never seen it like that.
Yeah, the reason why I haven't alluded to that was because I was going to talk about the board and bring it in, but now
you can edit this out.
Let's mention that. So obviously at the time, it was abundantly obvious that Everton fans probably would have been happy. I'm going to argue with a couple of names, and I'm going to say one was Frank Lampard, and one was Wayne Rooney, even Duncan. So maybe there's three. When we're being linked with Vitor Pereira, and he does this interview on Sky, and I have never seen anything so embarrassing in my life. And actually, what's better is the fact it's almost been put under the carpet. Like, no one mentions it.
It's embarrassing. It wasn't even our fault. I was in work in the office, and I was seeing the tweets. You know those fake Sky Sports News Twitters that people try and get you with? I thought it's got to be one of those, and you click the thing, and it's like, oh my God, this is actually happening. Like, someone is interviewing themselves, and I didn't want this guy anyway. I had met negative things, that he hadn't done much for a number of years, and then I think the names you mentioned there, the Rooney, the Ferguson, the Lampard, it very quickly became the fields wasn't very good. It wasn't very attractive. It was no longer even the most ambitious of Evertonians knew that we couldn't bring someone in at that level. You couldn't tempt it. I know Conte was at Tottenham by that point, but you could never go and get another Ancelotti. You just couldn't. They'd look at that club and they'd look what was going on, even with the fans, and they wouldn't come near it. So then by default, the fields became, okay, well, we've got to back someone. And it just became Lampard. It probably didn't help Ferguson that he got beat in his game by home to Aston Villa. It probably didn't help Duncan in that. If Duncan would have won that 3-0 and the ground was bouncing, it would have been him. So that killed him. Rooney has still got that little bit of a bitter taste in some fans' mouths, haven't they? Plus, he was so inexperienced that you think it would that work. I personally didn't think it would work, but then again, there are romantic sides of you start thinking, like, imagine he did come back, and imagine the bitterness of what happened as a player we delete it with this run as a manager. It's gone, and he rewrites his whole legacy. And you start thinking as a football fan again. But then if you take that away from it, Lampard just became the fit. Didn't he? He just became by default the fit. When Benitez went, I'm not going to lie, I didn't come on here and say let's get Frank Lampard. He for me just became the favourite by default. But I don't know whether you want to get into Frank or you want to stick with the season review. But by God, how important he and his personality has been and what we've done at the end of the season is you cannot underestimate what his personality has done for this football club.
Well, so I want to touch on both, because people would argue that Lampard had 17 games, I think, as Everton manager, and he picked up 1 point more than Rafa Benitez.
Yeah.
And a lot of people look at that headline number and they go, he's only picked up a point more. Yes, he's had 2 games. But actually, when he came into this football club, I would argue that we were lower in confidence, lower in form, lower as a fan base. There was infighting between, Twitter was a war zone.
The away ends, the Norwich end that you were in, the Brentford ends when we got beat there, those players, with the relationship with the fans had gone for the majority of them. Alex Iwobi and even Abdul Corey and stuff. You seen it was only really Anthony Gordon who had at that point any sort of relationship with the fans. You're absolutely right in what you're saying. It was to walk into that, and he said it since, hasn't he, in interviews with the Athletic and things. He walked into a toxic environment. Rafa Benitez walked into an environment where the Wales was getting a bit back to normal, and everyone was happy to get back in the stadium, and he was going to have that support from day one. The team had just had a very decent season, albeit we petered out. The team were held in quite high regard by fans at that point that Rafa came in. You're right, it was the opposite when Frank came in. You're absolutely right.
And what he managed to do very early on, in my opinion, was distill a mentality. And I'm not going to say this to the players. He didn't distill this to the players at this point. It was a little bit later on the players got it. But he distilled a mentality with the media, with us as fans, that he knew this job was difficult. He appreciated, he knew what this job was. He had to make a few signings fairly early. He actually got criticised for a number of weeks in the end about the signings he made in January. And I'll talk on them in a minute. But what he did was he walked up to the media and he says, "We're no longer just going to lie down to you. We're no longer just going to let you dictate what you say to us and how we react." He did it with referees very quickly. There was moments in the season where he reacted and he told the referee he disagreed. He told the media he disagreed. And that got people talking about Everton in a battling mentality, not going down having our belly tickled. And that was massive for me. He then, a few weeks later, after some, very average results, we lost away at Newcastle. I think we'd won the home game before in the cup against Brentford, etc. You know, we were okay.
Yeah.
We knew there was a lot of work, but for Frank, when was the turning moment? When did it go from not being a good appointment to being a good appointment? Or let me ask you another question, because me and you did discuss this. After that Burnley game where we lost, I said to you, if Everton are going to roll the final dice, which is sack Frank and bring in another manager, you have to do it after the Burnley game.
Yeah.
I look back at that now, and I'm so glad. I'm so glad the club didn't listen to what I was saying. But I was very worried we were going to go down. I thought we were done at that point. I thought we were done the week before when we lost to Wolves. But when was it for you where it was bad and it went good? Talk about Lampard.
Just to spin it a little bit, and I do that because I'm going to answer the question by doing this. Sam Allardyce, Marco Silva, Roberto Martinez, to a lesser extent Ronald Koeman, they all failed because they didn't adapt their style of football to what was needed. They had a plan A, and if plan A didn't work, you try plan A again and plan A again. Now, Frank Lampard was setting Everton up in a certain way. You go away to Crystal Palace in the Cup and you have 10 good minutes and then you're blown away because you're not fit enough and can't play that level. Tottenham away was very, very similar. We started really, really well. We lose the game 5-0. And I think me and you said we can't keep playing like this. He has to dig in. He has to do what an Allardyce would have done here. That's the only way this team, even Carlo Ancelotti, had to set that team up in a certain way to win games last 2 seasons ago now, and games that I'll always remember. Great games, winning at Anfield and things like playing a certain way. The fact that he'd done that was the moment I started thinking, okay, we haven't got this, who I perceived could possibly be a stubborn, arrogant, coming from Chelsea. Is he only here to get the England job in the interim? And all those thoughts were in my mind about Frank Lampard. And then when the Manchester United game at home, where he set us up differently, and then the Chelsea game at home, where he set us up differently, the Leicester game, again, differently. Now, he was a little bit naive in the games against Watford and Crystal Palace. The Palace game, he had to change it again. But again, that's another example of he'd stumbled on this formation that was working. He was terrified of letting it go. He didn't let it go against Watford. He didn't let it go against Brentford. And we took 1 point out of a possible 6, which would have seen us safe. And then he reverts back again and changes his style again. The fact that he's adapting and he's changing his style is so encouraging for me to watch us do that. I now look at this Everton team, and I don't think this will be the team going forward, but this current Everton team, I think they can play in a number of different ways now already. That is credit to not only Frank Lampard, but the coaching staff he's got there. Because the previous managers I've said there, they failed because they didn't adapt. Marco Silva, Roberto Martinez could not get you a 0-0 away from home if Champions League football depended on it. Sam Allardyce could not win you an FA Cup in a final if it was a one-off game. They're too set and stubborn in their ways. What I'm seeing with Lampard is different, and I think that's exactly what this Everton team needs.
Yeah. So
that was for me. That was the moment. I was not 100% on board with Lampard until I seen him adapting and changing.
Do you know, you're right. And I actually said exactly the same thing. So I made a comment that, because people were criticising Lampard for not being tactically clever enough. Yeah. I criticised him for it in some of those games, saying, what are you doing? West Ham away, Tottenham away. There was a few games where you could sit there and you could criticise his subs and you could criticise his tactics. But he got it right in the end. He learned. He was a manager that, in my opinion, he learned from his own mistakes. And I think that's all you really can ask of anyone in life, irrespective of football. And he did that. He proved that to me. And towards the end of the season, he really did distill a mentality that was, look, we aren't great away from home. And he admitted that. He said, if we don't pick up points away from home, we're not going to stay up. He said that. He said we will have to win away from home. And he said that the Everton crowd would get behind the team and would support the team. Me and you actually came on this video and said the only way Everton Football Club stay up is at Goodison Park, because we were never going to get enough points away from home. And when I look at what he achieved in the final 5 games, 6 games, whatever you want to really define it as, he managed to get enough points to keep us up. Bearing in mind, both Leeds and Burnley went on a run where you are quite right. At the start of this video, you said there was a 5-point gap at one point. If we'd have lost to Chelsea, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
So he managed to take all of that, get the team fighting, pick up results against Manchester United, Chelsea, Leicester away.
Yeah.
He managed to get a point at home to Leicester in a game that we wasn't really in, albeit we had the better chances.
Yeah.
We got done by a ref against Brentford, but you could possibly argue for the first 15 minutes of that game, that game could have been a cricket score to Everton after 90 minutes. If we'd have kept 11 men on that pitch, I reckon it was 4-5-0.
Yeah.
The confidence was shot. We go into Palace, we're 2-0 down, and whatever he did defined the mentality at Everton Football Club, because us as fans were broken. There was people next to me crying. There was people behind me arguing because I wouldn't stand up for a full 95 minutes because I was broken. There was loads of people not quite knowing what to do to get this team to win that game of football. And whatever Frank Lampard did, which we will go on to in a minute, he must have said something in that dressing room to those players, because that was a completely different Everton side that walked out in that second half. And I also want to talk about the signings he made, because he made one in particular signing that, quite honestly, I was not asked if he was going to be at the club or not. And that was Dele Alli. Complete waste of time. Whatever money was involved, his wages. And he completely changed that game of football. He allowed calmness in a very difficult situation. He was slower with the ball. He wasn't rushing. He completely imitated and displayed exactly what we needed as not just a football club, not just a game of football, not just as a fan base, but as an actual Everton entity. He came onto that pitch and he completely changed the game for me, Dele Alli.
Yeah, and going back to what speculating what was said at half time in that game, whatever it was, there's only one reason it worked is because they believed in what they were hearing. Those players, he's got a relationship with the players. You can see it. I know, and I know after the Palace game, he questioned them and he said, there's a lack of bollocks, and I love that. I love the fact that you get beat 4-0 and he's not putting his arm around them. But there was Brentford at home and there was Leicester at home if he didn't win, and there was still a togetherness at full time with the staff and the players. And I haven't seen that for an awful, awful long time. I don't know when the last time I have seen a coach. I know Carlo had it with certain members of the Everton team. He'd go on the pitch and he'd put his arm around him and walk off. David Moyes has it with the majority, but you hear comments now from the likes of Mason Holgate, who was gone, Alex Iwobi, who was gone, and they're saying that they feel valued, they feel believed in, and whatever he said, it only worked because the players are on board with them. If that was a manager who the players didn't believe in, you wouldn't have come back in that game, regardless of how many crosses you put in, regardless of the crowds, regardless of how many strikers or players you put on. It wouldn't have happened. It only happened because there's a togetherness there with that group. Now I don't want that group to go forwards. I'm as much as how relieved and proud I am at the moment in the cold light of day. That group of footballers, that 11 that you put out will not do much more than what they've done, and they've won half the games, if that, under Frank. So that puts you around higher mid-table, lower mid-table. I want better than that, but there's a togetherness there. You can see that there's a togetherness there with that team. They came out. I was bricking it, absolutely bricking it, because one thing you missed off there is Burnley were winning, weren't they, at half time? Burnley went 1-0 up away at Aston Villa, and for some reason, I went out for a pint at half time with my mate Gaz in the Park End. And for some reason, they never do this, but they had Sky Sports News or they had Gillette Stock or whatever on. So you can see the scores, and then everyone just sees the Burnley score. And we're 15 minutes. We kicked off 15 minutes early, didn't we? So at half time, you're watching that. And to go back to our seats, it was like, and I didn't really notice. If you look back at that game, he changed it tactically at the end of the first half. He moved Iwobi in, didn't he, and Coleman, and went to the right hand side. But I was thinking, like, we've got to do that. But I don't even know if that's enough, because a draw was probably all I was hoping for at half time, and it would have still seen us going into Arsenal, who were, I know Tottenham had Norwich, but Arsenal was still alive. That's not a game Arsenal could have put the kids out in. They had to, win their game and hope for something to happen at Carrow Road that helped them. So, and if you notice as well, you'll see it more on the still pictures of the celebrations. The sky was just like a dramatic colour. It was like walking back into like a Harry Potter film and thinking, like, do we die tonight? Is the scene set that everything just goes wrong? And the first goal goes in. I'll be honest with you, I didn't celebrate it. I didn't have it in me. I felt sick. Yeah. I was obviously pleased and obviously relieved that we had won in, but I just couldn't celebrate it. I just wanted them to get back in our half into the Park End and go again. Jordan Pickford makes an unbelievable save, doesn't he, where the ball bounces around and you think, oh, God, no, please. If they go 3-1 up here, it mirrors a game under Martinez. We were fighting for the Champions League where they went 3-1 up and it killed us. There was no way back. Yeah. You go 2-2. And even then, I was thinking, I can't see us winning it. I just can't. And those lads around me who did feel that, they were saying, like, we've got this, Palace are gone, keep going. And I was thinking the other way. I've been Everton that many times. I was thinking, fuck that, let's put the ball in the corner at 2-2 now. Because I know what usually happens here. And then the moments where, the ball goes in for the third goal. And I think you were sitting in the Park End that evening, weren't you? So you're just waiting. When you sit behind another goal, anyone who sits behind the goal knows when it's the other end, as clear as your view is, you've got to wait for that net to move. Yeah, it can look like it's going a number of ways from where you are, and I just seen the keeper go, and it was like slow motion, and then that net moves and the noise, and I'm still bruised. I've got bruises all over me from those celebrations.
How many rows did you end up back up the park end? Because honestly, man, I was practically picked up by the big lad who was sitting next to me, picked me up and carried me up the stairs.
We were more like bouncing on the same row a little bit. So I'm on BB. So if I'd have went down the length I am, I'd have went down. It would have been
honestly, mate. Honestly, because my seat was literally on the stairs. Like my feet were on the stairs.
Yeah.
And honestly, mate, I got picked up. I was carried up the stairs, celebrating. I almost collapsed back down them, and the euphoria feeling I've never experienced in a game of football.
It was that little bit after it. I don't know if you what you were doing or if you can even recall this moment, but this moment sticks with me. When the sort of dust had settled down, we must have celebrated for 60 seconds, 90 seconds. I mean, really, really celebrating. I don't mean ending the celebration with a hug. I mean, you're going back in for a fucking neck. You're on fire. When that stopped after 60 to 90 seconds, and the steward's on the pitch and the tannoy's on the pitch saying, get off the pitch, and the linesman's in the middle of the pitch with the referee, and it's just that weird noise. And I just thought, like, I don't know where I am. Like, what day is it? Like, I didn't know what to feel. And you're looking at the clock and you're thinking, well, there's going to be added on time here, but I've got no idea because the clock at Goodison never tells you, what the time added on is going to be. The clock just goes. And it was just that confusion of, like, are we going to go into a situation here where we're not going to be deep in our half for how long? Whilst also feeling on top of the fucking world.
Yeah.
And my head was just everywhere. And then play resumes. I don't think Palace had another chance. I think they may have came forward a few times, and it's nervy, and the keeper's sitting on it when he gets it, and the defenders are whacking it clear. But I don't know about you, but it was just that few moments after the goal towards play resuming. I was not in a good place.
No, mate, I can echo it, and actually, it was about the 87th or 88th minute. They get the ball down the right hand side. And you see him going one-on-one with Mikalenko, and you're just like, oh my God, please, someone step over. And Richarlison steams in. He steams in. He wins the ball. He smashes it up the park. Yeah. And Rondon, if you remember, he takes about 2.5 minutes just holding the ball, just playing with the ball. He could score as well at one point or something. He just, and the final whistle goes, and honest to God, I mean, I don't know about you, but everyone bolted onto the pitch in front of me, and I sat in my seat for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I saw that there was definitely more than, say, 5,000 people on that pitch, I thought, fuck it, here I go. And I've gone straight. I'm literally 4 rows to the back in the middle of the park end. I've went down the stairs, cut across, down them stairs, on the pitch. The woman actually helped me onto the pitch because I couldn't get my leg over the board because it's celebrated. And I bumped into John. And
I've seen the video, the started into the match.
We cuddled each other in the middle of the pitch. It was the most surreal feeling ever. It was incredible. It was incredible for all of the wrong reasons. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. It was. It was.
Did you on the pitch?
Same story as you. When it first happened, I didn't. I stayed in the stands, and they put Spirit of the Blues on. They put Forever Everton on, and I stayed in the stands. And so when that was happening with the videos where you see Lampard singing Spirit of the Blues, I was in the stand for that. And then I said to one of my best mates next to me, I said, let's just go down. And I think there's always a little bit of a fear of how does this look? Does this have implications? But by that point, it was just gone. Those worries. We literally walked down the steps from row BB, and it was like we were walking into a shop. The steward just opened the gates for us, and on we went.
Yeah.
And we got a couple of photos on there, and I sent my little boy a few videos so we could have a look at before in the morning. And yet it was just you're on the pitch, and even being on the pitch, I felt everything. I felt everything. Like I never wanted to be back in this situation. It was Coventry 1998 when a 13-year-old Millsy was on the pitch, and even then thinking never again. And there I am at 37, and I'm back, and it was just surreal. I felt the way I did 13. I can't believe I'm on Goodison Park. It's amazing. I love this place. I want this place forever, but never ever put me back on this place in this scenario. Never make me come back here and watch this again, because we haven't seen it, me and you, but it's such a huge, massive, massive football club, raked in success. Our parents and grandparents have watched it, got the stories about it, league titles, FA Cups, European nights at Goodison. It happens on the regular. It wasn't a one-off. That 1985 film could very, very easily be a 1966 film, or a School of Science film, or a film about Dixie. Make a film about Brian LeBone, Neville Southall. You could. That's not a one-off. That Howard's Way. The club. That was just a really great moment, but it was It was in line with a number of great moments. Arguably the best Everton team ever, but it wasn't a one-off, and we've seen nothing since. So you look at it and you go, "Don't put me back in a situation. Something's gone really, really wrong." And I don't mean really wrong in the space of like, okay, we've had a bad manager. Something over a number of decades now, we're nearly reaching the third decade, has gone really, really wrong.
Let's talk about that. I mean, you've actually brought that into such a good moment there, Milsey. Well, it sounds like it was scripted. Let's talk about the Everton board. The reason why I want to talk about the Everton board before the players and the managers and whatever is whether you play Everton Football Club and you have for a season or 6 or 7 seasons, the facts are you are in this position.
Yeah.
So we know that. We know where we are. And we know we need to improve. So you can criticise them as much as you like. The board have allowed numerous managers, millions of pounds to be spent. Potential ramifications in terms of Burnley and Leeds legal appeals, albeit I don't think there's any grounds for it. But they've left themselves open. And when you look at where this football club was before we were bought or we were taken over in 2000 and what is it now? 2016?
16. Yeah, it was. I think it was
February
2016. Yeah.
When we were taken over to where we are now is terrible, and it's even worse now than it was the 24 years before, when, as you rightly say, Mills, we'd won and achieved nothing. So when I look at this board, from every single member of it, Ken Wright, Mashira, Denise, whatever, I think they're a disgrace. I think they are nothing short of a disgrace. And it's not personal. I don't know what Bill is like as an individual. He might be the nicest man in the world. Denise might be the most fantastic lady in the world. And Farhad could be exactly the same. But from a business perspective, they haven't got a clue, because Everton Football Club have gone so backwards so quickly. It's like we're a completely different team. And it has taken someone who has came in with a bit of charisma and a bit of brutal force and a bit of aggression and cockiness to change the mentality. Otherwise, this football club was destined for the Championship. And I'm pretty convinced we weren't getting out of it.
Yeah.
This board, in my opinion, this summer has to change. I don't care about anything else. It has to change. And my concern is it won't.
I don't think personnel-wise it will. I just don't see it. And the thing with if you look at Mashiri individually, it's a difficult one, because the information and the data is out there publicly that says if he walks, we're fucked. Without him as an individual, his financial backing, it's the easiest game of Jenga someone will ever win. One thing and it'll fall.
Yeah.
So you need him there. He hasn't got the structure around him that would allow him to not be there. The structure was obviously, we all know what the informal structure was, because you see no sponsors run a mile when the Ukraine and the Russia war happens.
Yeah.
So he had something there. Kazoo deal was coming up. I imagine we all know what was going on the front of this season's shirt. We all knew what Bramley Moore was going to be called, but not thick. That's gone. So we're left with the individual. He walks, like I said, game of Jenga. So we can't really afford for him to leave. What we need is for him to get better. That's one individual. What I will say with Moshiri is, I do think he's listened. I really do, because not only did he communicate in January. Now, some of those banners at the protests were in January. There was one that said "School of Silence." Another owner could have took it the wrong way and said "fuck yous." He came out and sort of explained his silence, that I'm a private individual, I'm impatient, I'm trigger happy, I need to be better, I'll communicate more, and I need to be more patient. That's on our website. Go and read it. In January, it's an interview, came out and said it. He's hired a director of football. For whatever reason, Tim Cahill came in and done some sort of strategic review. That's brought in a director of football who seems to be at this point ripping up the youth development. So you've got a coach who's now gone, and he's trying to split the roles. I think Unsworth was not only the coach, he was the head of something, the analyst, or he had 2 titles. Thelwell, apparently, according to another article in The Athletic, which is really good, believes that that's not a one-person job, because he tried it himself at Wolves, the under-18s, and it can't be done. So all of a sudden, you've got an owner who's brought a director of football in who seems to be doing things. He's brought a manager in who looks to be comfortable working with Thelwell. They were hugging at the end of the Palace game. So you can sort of see changes already. What I would say with the 27 group or the fans who were unhappy at this point, and I'm with you, so I certainly wasn't happy Evertonian in January. It's probably still not really. But maybe we've got to put a full stop on that for now. I don't want to come in this podcast and repeat myself and say he's trigger happy, we can't, the financial fair play. It's all gone now. What we need for him is to get better. So that's one. Denise Barrett Baxter, I don't know enough information on. I believe she's a diamond of a woman. I've got friends who sort of have indicated that they know her and stuff and enjoy being around her. The diamonds of a woman, and an Evertonian. I've not seen her successes, and I don't know how deep she's been in our failure. I don't know. She's not someone I lose sleep over being at the football club, because I'm not educated enough on her. Bill Kenwright is the last of the most unsuccessful boards in Everton Football Club's history to still be there. He should really have been given a title of lifetime president, something, or he should have been given the greatest season ticket in the house in 2016, and he wasn't. I would like to think at some point, due to a number of factors, his age being one, I think he's 76 now. I don't think he's going to want to be as active as he is going into his later years. Maybe I'm wrong. I think there's a number of factors that will eventually move Bill Kenwright from a position of power. I personally would be really happy if that decision was taken out of his hands by the owner. Now, I would be really happy, and you could do it in the nicest possible way. You could celebrate him. You could write the biggest article, get the media team to put a video together, rewrite history on this video, call it Good Times. I'll watch it. Rewrite history, send them out on the nicest possible way. No one has to put a bullet to him and say, "You're shit, go." Let him come to home games next season. Let him wear the official Everton suit, the blazer, the lot. For him, for me now, that's the one where he just should no longer be there. And I've never understood it. I've seen it at Chelsea where Abramovich and Bruce Buck were there, and I don't understand why you have a chairman and an owner. If anything, you have an owner and a CEO. But we've got all three. Seems to be one too many chefs in the kitchen for me. But I don't think personnel-wise it'll change. We've just got to hope that the biggest member of that trio, our owner, will get better. I'm quite hopeful that's the case. I don't know. You may disagree with every bit of that. I don't know, but I can't see it change. I would like it to change, but I can't see personnel wise it changing. At this moment, sorry, at this moment.
I don't know.
No.
But I'll tell you what I do know. What I would love. I would love Everton to be sold tomorrow.
Yeah.
I would love someone who I could trust would make the right decisions, because I feel like over the last 6 years now, I've seen numerous decisions be made by this board of directors that haven't worked. And actually, where me and you are different is I think you're probably slightly not forgiving. Not going to say forgiving. You're less brutal than me, I would say, and that's a good thing, because you definitely need fans more like you.
I live in a bit more hope.
I've had enough. I've had enough of a poorly run club that's now financially decimated. An owner or a chairman that has achieved nothing in 30 years. Denise, you might be right, might be fine. And if Denise is good at a job, then fair enough. Like, no problem.
Yeah. I don't think anyone knows with her. I think she's the one that you just don't know.
But the two of them, I don't trust at all. I just don't trust them. It's gone. It's gone. And I do semi-agree with you with what you say about the 27 campaign and some of the other campaigns. I think now isn't the time.
Yeah.
But I also don't think that these people should forget that they very much are the issue at Everton Football Club. I don't want to hear more comments like clubs aspire to be ran like Everton, or, Farhad coming out and saying, I'm 100% committed to the cause. I'm not doubting you're not committed, Farhad, and I'm not doubting that Bill Kenwright believes we were run fantastically when he was chairman. I have no doubt, and I have no disrespect to any of the things that Bill did when we were very financially stuck, and I have real praise for Mr. Mashiri regarding the stadium that we're going to have. But what I would say, just before I shoot the dog, is I am at the point now where I've had enough.
Yeah, no, and I get it. I really do get it. And I'm a reactionary fan. And if the worst would have happened two weeks ago, then I might be saying something very, very different to what I'm saying now, more along the lines with what you're saying. I do think it's time to change. I really do. If there was breaking news now that said Everton had been sold to, I don't know, another billionaire, again, it's not something that I wouldn't be upset with that. I'd be cautious, as I was cautious when, in fact, I wasn't cautious when Sherry came in, because I was up to date with how the club was at that point. Yeah, so there you go. We're fickle football fans. At the end of the day, every single one of us, we can change our opinions like a switch, and I've done it on this show all season. If anyone went back and made a compilation of the Mike and Mills show, I was saying it was black minute, white the next. I was saying it was blue, then it was red. And that's what we are. I think I'd like to think that I won't be on this podcast next year if Everton 19 saying Lampard's out, but I will, because that's the life of a football fan. And I agree with you, Mike. I think thousands of Evertonians are done with how this club is being run, and you only have to look at. I was saying to Pricey when we went to see the coach enter the Goodison Road for the Palace game, I was sort of as close as I could get to it, and I said to Pricey, "Can you imagine this time last year when we had the Carlo and we were around the European places? If someone would have showed you this scene, what would you have thought? What would you have thought was happening?" And he said, "I thought we both were in the fucking league, obviously." I said, "Can you imagine what it would be like if that was ever the case?" And I think that's where you are, Mike. I think you look at it and you go, we're not there because of how the club is being run, and you're putting Mashiri right up there, and I can't disagree. I have not got the basis to argue with that. My only hope is that he just gets better. That's all I've got, because if we get sold, okay, but I think if we push and push and push as a group of fans, and I could see where it probably would go. If Everton went down, he wouldn't be allowed back near the stadium. He wouldn't have got back near the ground. Peter Johnson got that treatment for selling a number 9 when we were mid-table. Can you imagine what happens to the owner who takes Everton down through his decisions? So I'm with you, but I just hope I can see a great stadium being built. I can see a manager who I believe in. I can see a togetherness with fans and that manager. And you could argue togetherness with fans and players now as well. The number of players who have turned it around for me, and I just think we would, as a fan base, we would be silly to damage that at this point. If it goes wrong, if we are back in a situation where Kia Jabrachin is swapping players between Aston Villa and Everton Football Club again in the next transfer window, fucking hell, I'll be at the ground. Get me a fucking flare and a banner and with yous. But until that point, let's just try and put a full stop in it and just hope.
Yeah, so I completely agree with that, and that is why it's so important that I trust Lampard, which I do.
Yeah,
I actually started to trust some of the players that I didn't trust for a long time, because I think they've significantly improved under Lampard to the point where I'm prepared not to say, okay, you need to go this summer. Like, literally, there is players that all season I have said I don't want to see anywhere near the football club. And I haven't wanted recently, because of some of the comments that was made with Dominic, I haven't wanted to say anything about individual players in a negative light. Not because I said anything about Dominic, but what I really highlighted was that these people are individuals. These are real people, and people suffer. And I said to you, if you remember, I said Dominic is not in a good place. He's not in a good place. And I was right. And I know that because I've been there myself. So I knew. And what I decided, I made a conscious effort that I will no longer go X, Y, and Z are really shit footballers. But what I will say is some players have needed to improve, and some players have improved significantly in the last 6 weeks when they've needed to. And I'm mentioning players like Alex Iwobi, Mason Holgate, Vitaly Mikalenko. These players were players that I didn't rate 6 months ago. And now I'm really looking forward to them having a chance in the Premier League next season. Whether Mason Holgate and Iwobi are first team starters in the 11, they might not be. But I at least know that when backs are against the wall, they've shown me they've got the mentality to go and change that. And I respect that. They don't have to be the best footballers in the world, but they've got the right attitude. And they've proved that when you get the right man to unlock the right attitude, you get the right results. And that isn't rocket science.
No, it's not. And you mentioned individuals there. I'm just thinking out loud. If I'd have said to you, or the future you would have said to the previous, the prior you, at the end of January, I'm going to go into the last week of the season needing to win to stay up. You'll be fine. You will get there. And a massive thanks will be to Vitaly Mikalenko, Mason Holgate, Alex Iwobi, and Fabian Delph. What would you have thought?
I wouldn't have believed you. I would have thought you were on a different planet. And then when you throw in Dele Alli into that mix as well, I wouldn't have believed you. I wouldn't have believed that Jordan Pickford would have gone from being a goalkeeper that's got a mistake in him to a goalkeeper that's been solid to a leader to a goalkeeper that's, in my opinion, kept us in the Premier League with his saves he's made in certain games. There is no doubt in my mind that Jordan Pickford's kept us in this league. I would never have believed any of it. I would never have believed any of it. And I am so proud of those players. Yes, I'm proud of Richarlison, but I always knew he had that mentality. I always knew that there was games he'd sulk in, and there was games where he would turn it on, he'd battle, he'd go and be snide, he'd go and win free kicks. I knew Anthony Gordon was a blue through and through, so he would fight for this team.
Yeah,
I've learned that there's a couple of others in there that I can't write off. and I refuse to write them off. And there'll be people on here that will criticise me for those players. They'll say that they're not good enough and they should leave the club, and they're the reason we're 16th. I get it. I 100% get it. But I think there's bigger problems in this Everton squad than players that at least have shown heart over the last 6-7 weeks. And
I agree. Yeah, I agree. So the flip side of that is when you're in a good place as a fan with your club, and when you're in a good place as a fan with some individual footballers, it's hard to see the wood from the trees sometimes. So I just want to ask you a question, really. So I'll start by going back in time. In 1994, Everton stayed up on the last game of the season. That team were heroes. They still, the Barry Horn goal, everything, heroes. 4 or 5 months later, they were rock bottom with 1 win all season, and nothing could change. The manager had to go. The new manager then had to change it up and bring different players in and whatever. 1998, again, Gareth Farley's goal is still played in the Winslow with the commentary, and you hear it. And the scenes of Michael Ball jumping up and down are brilliant. Heroes saved Everton. Heroes. Manager got sacked. Following season, we were nearly going down until Kevin Campbell came in and saved us. The point I'm making is this team is still the same team that got us into this situation. By all means, laud them, and they've turned it around and they've got us over the line. Remove yourself from it, in my opinion. Try and see the wood from the trees. The question I wanted to ask you is with their stock so high, is now still the time to press reset on that team for you?
You can't, and that's my answer. You can't. No matter what.
If money comes, if we could sell both strikers, would you stop there?
No, exactly. No. I'd sell about 15 players out of this team, no problem. But because we can't, I think we're knackered, and I think we've got to somehow put faith in players that we probably haven't had faith in before. Yeah. Next season, I've heard Everton fans, and I'm not digging anyone out individually here, but I've heard Everton fans saying, I'd like us to finish just 10th, or I'd like us to see if we can get into the top 8. And I'm sitting there thinking, give me a 15th place finish right now. Give me a 15th place finish right now, and we stay up 5 games before the end of the season. Because I'm telling you, this team, whether you sell Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin, whether you sell Allen, Gomez, Decore, Mina, this team has still got too many individuals that are not good enough. And that is a fact. So you can bring in as much money as you want to reinvest, but because of financial fair play and the position we are in, I don't think it's as easy as doing that. I just don't. We've got some good additions to come into this team. Anyway, Nathan Patterson will come in over Coleman, I suspect, from next season. I suspect he should do. I mean, as long as he's fit and he's okay in pre-season, he should be playing. So you're looking at another centre-half at least, if not 2, depending on who leaves. You then need, in my opinion, 2 new midfielders, 2 completely new centre midfielders, because 2 of the players that I have at times been disappointed in this predicament we've been in have been our 2 central midfielders that we've spent decent money on, bought in by a different manager, playing a different style of football. So if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. The passing ability has been poor. And if we're going to get the pull from defence to attack, we need to be passing the ball better. So for me, you sell the midfielders, you bring in 2 that can pass. Then you've got the potential that Everton lose at least their talisman. If you include another talisman in there, then they've got 2 top players that could leave. That could generate 100 million, maybe. I don't know how much I'd get, but you'd say approx 100 million. The reinvestment from those 2 will, in my opinion, get the goals that those 2 generated. I don't think it costs you 75 million to replace Richarlison's 10, 15 goals a season. I don't think it costs that.
No, you've got to be clever. You've got to be clever, and you've got to do what we haven't done in the past. You've got to know what you're doing. can be done.
Exactly. And I trust that we've now got a manager that can do that because he's done it before. He has had to scrimp and save and work out where he's getting his players from in his first season at Chelsea, Lampard did, because
Yeah.
he couldn't spend money and he had to rely on his youth. Now, there's never been a better time to be a youth player at Everton Football Club when you've got a group of players that aren't good enough in many aspects. And I'm not saying that because they're individually terrible. I'm saying that because Everton finished 16th in the Premier League this season.
Yeah.
What I want is us to rip up the book, rip it up, rip the whole lot up.
Yeah.
If you was to say to me, do I want to lose Richarlison? No, I do not want to lose Richarlison because I would very much worry that you are taking the heartbeat out of Everton Football Club. But do I trust we are capable of finding another Damari Gray or an Anthony Gordon or, a player that is capable of giving us 15 games a season where they are good goal games and they do go and get goals and they do make sure that we win games of football? Yeah, I do. And if you say to me now, as I've just said, Everton finished 14th, 15th, but never really worry about relegation, I take it. I snap your hand off. Because the other way this can go is what happened to Aston Villa the season that they did go down 6 years ago or whatever it was, is they finished 17th on the last game of the season before, and the season after, they ended up getting 17 points, going down rock bottom with the third lowest total in history. Everton could quite easily do that. If we can't invest, we are quite easily there. So we've got to do something that I'm begging they can do. And I don't know.
It's a year or two of being clever now, isn't it? Until, we're losing players this summer where the books will look better, but the books are looked at over a 3-year period. So you're not really going to see the benefit. Yes, you can replace these players and stuff, but you're not really going to see the benefit until 1 or 2 years. By that time, you'd imagine the stadium is there. So I agree. I think you've got to be clever and you've got to have a workaround of doing this over the next 2 seasons. I don't think it's going to be a 2017 summer where we just went out and bought a number of players and excited everybody. I don't think it's going to be a James Rodriguez summer, where, albeit there was no fee, we were paying someone massive money who got fans excited. I think it's going to be a Damari Gray summer. And I think it may be a case of if you lose one of the strikers, and if the manager can maybe go to Chelsea and work out something for Broja and Gallagher, and maybe that doesn't make you. I don't know whether that weakens us or makes you stronger. I don't know, because I don't know what our strikers could do next year. They might be so motivated by the feel good factor that one of them goes and gets 25 goals next year and has the season of his life. It's and that's why I'm not paid to make them decisions. That's why I said before, I've just got to hope for better. It does feel, if the end of the season and now where I'm sitting, it does feel a little bit to me like I've just had a shower and I'm washing some of the dirt off, and I'm feeling a little bit better now. It's a case of, it's not Marcel Brands and it's not Rafael Benitez. It's Frank Lampard and it's Kevin Thelwell now. So it's got to be trust. There's no one in that team that they can hurt by selling me. By selling them. There's no one I'd be terribly hurt. I'm with you. I don't want to see Richarlison go. I feel there's a connection there, but I've also seen Richarlison have some stinkers.
Yeah.
Dominic Calvert-Lewin the same, the goalkeeper the same, the left back Ben Godfrey. All at times have really impressed me. I would not lose sleep. I would not be writing Lampard out on a bedsheet if he sold any of them and said, I'm doing this to try and make us better. And my message to anyone who doesn't feel the same is I'd say get ready, because I think that is what's going to happen this summer. One has to go. And no one's buying Andre Gomez for 30 million. No one's giving us 20 million for Allen. They may go, but they won't make a dent. If we want the reset button, we're going to lose a big player this summer. It's the only way.
There you go, guys. We are going to leave it there. Thank you ever so much for tuning in to the Blue Boys Network. First video in 9 days, and you get an hour and 5 minutes special.
And he's forgot my name. He forgot my name. Administrator. I'm not even the administrator of my own annual leave in work. And you've made me.
I don't do that. That's the name that's set on your thing. I can't change it.
Oh, I don't know. I'm logged in on my phone. That shows how tech savvy I am. So I was trying to get the laptop working after work, and it wasn't working. Mike's helped me get me mobile working, and I can't even type my name into it.
I was actually gonna put 2 name tags on top of the name, so they would never have known it was administrator. But now they know, so I'm just gonna leave it. Guys, it's been a pleasure as always. Make sure you go to Across the Park podcast, listen to their podcast, go and support their sponsors, go and get yourself involved with everything that they do over there, both from a blue and a red perspective. The Reds have had a fantastic week, I would say. You know,
I'd always say for our podcast, try and stay away from the red videos, but please go and watch the video on our channel of the 3 Reds on a ferry going to the Champions League final as cocky and confident as ever. It will put a smile on your face.
It certainly put one on mine. So, guys, get yourself over to Across the Park, and yeah, we are finished. Peace.